don't always know what God is doing. In fact, there are times we just wonder what in the world is going on. We've been studying the book of Romans in church now for several years. In the last 5 or 6 weeks, we have launched off from the promise of Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And tomorrow we conclude the chapter. What an amazing promise that we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God, those who are called according to His purpose. And then we find the foundation for that promise in the following verses, that God foreknew me before the world began, that He predestined me to be conformed to the image of Jesus Christ, that He called me, that He justified me, that He glorified me. And what then shall we say to these things? If God before me, who can be against me? Who can lay a charge against God's elect? It is God who justifies. It is who condemns. It is Christ who died and who intercedes for me at the right hand of the Father. Who can separate me from the love of God? Oh, there will be troubles and persecution. We won't always understand it all. But Romans 8:28 is true. Life, nor death, nor things present, nor things to come, nor heaven, nor hell, or trials, or difficulties, none of it can separate us from the love of God in Jesus Christ. He is working all things together for our good. And over these weeks, as I've meditated and marinated, per se, in these passages and prepared myself for these messages, they've come together in a song for me. I don't pretend to be a great singer. I don't pretend to be a songwriter or a musician of any kind. But I've sat and sung through this again and again, making the chorus out of verse 28 and then building the verses around through the rest of the chapter. Grabbing hold of this great promise. Then last night, as I sat in the hospital room and observed the Sanchez family as we watched and waited for Brother Manny to come off that operating table after having a 17-centimeter aneurysm burst in his brain, bleed for over 7 hours before they could operate, and cause a massive stroke and massive blood clot. The doctor prepares for the possibility of him never even making it through that operation. Sitting there remembering all the pain and all the suffering that the Sanchez's have gone through in the last year. Remembering a year ago as I sat there and cried and prayed with Lydia and Manny as Josh was on his deathbed. God has left him with us and did so many miracles, and we're so grateful for that. And Josh sat there last night in his wheelchair crying for his dad like his dad had cried for him a year before. Wonder, God, how could you put so much on one family? How could one dear lady be asked to bear all this? I don't have all the answers. I don't. I don't know what's going to happen to my brother Manny. I don't know what's going to happen to my sister Lydia, but I know that the promise of Romans 8:28 is real. God does work all things together for the good of those who love Him. It has an amazing foundation. So as cheesy as this is, Sister Lydia and Josh, and anyone else struggling with believing this promise today, here is my interpretation of the last part of the chapter of Romans chapter 8. Oh, you are my shelter and my fortress. You're the one that I can lean on. You're the one that I can trust. For you are working everything together for the good of those who love you, for the good of those you call. And you've called me. hung the stars in place and put the mountains in their place. You knew me, Lord. 'Cause there you chose me and predestined me to be like Jesus Christ, for He alone is worthy. And you called me from the dead, justified this wicked heart. You brought real life instead of all the lies I'd lived so long. You glorified me, in you I stand in your hand. For you are my shelter and my fortress. You're the one that I can lean on. You're the one that I can trust. For you are working everything together for the good of those who love you, for the good of those you call. And you called me. As this life flows by, it's hard to reconcile these truths in the light of all my pain and all my suffering. Yet in your kindness, you hold out for me this proof of a love beyond my wildest understanding. Could have spared your only son, but you freely gave him up for me. When I think of all you've done, how could you ever take your hand from me? And if God is for me, who can stand against me or condemn me? For you are my shelter and my fortress. You're the one that I can lean on. You're the one that I can trust. For you are working everything together for the good of those who love you, for the good of those you call. Oh, for you are my shelter and my fortress. You're the one that I can lean on. You're the one that I can trust. For you are working everything together for the good of those who love you, for the good of those who call. And you called me. You called me. To be conformed to the image of Jesus Christ, and all the struggles that I face in life, bringing about this glorious end to the day I stand complete in Him. And not height, not depth, not life nor death, not demons or the powers of hell could ever separate me from your love. Your love. For you are my shelter, you're my fortress. You're the one that I can lean on. You're the one that I can trust. I'm working everything together for the good of those who love you, for the good of those who call. Yes, you are, Lord, you are my shelter, you're my fortress. You're the one that I can lean on. You're the one that I can trust. For you are working everything together for the good of those who love you, for the good of those you call. And you called me. Lord, thank you for that promise. Would you apply it to our hearts? Darkest moments of our lives. You're big enough to trust. We lean on you. And I join my brothers and sisters in placing Manny, Lydia, and Josh in your hands. And I cry out for anyone else who needs to believe this promise today. In the name of Jesus.